I don't know who told you that faithfulness was easy, but they didn't tell you the whole truth. See, we're living in a culture today that wants microwave blessings off of crockpot obedience. Folks want promotion without preparation, elevation without examination, and victory without the discipline of staying put when it's hard. But let me tell you something. If you walk out too soon, you may miss the door God was just about to open. You see what you're doing today in the quiet, how you serve when nobody's clapping, how you pray when it feels like heaven's silent, how you love when it hurts, how you forgive when it's unfair, how you worship when it's heavy. That is the foundation God builds your tomorrow on. The victory you're praying for, it ain't waiting on your talent. It's not waiting on your resume. It's waiting on your faithfulness. And so if you're tired, if you're discouraged, if you're wondering, does any of this even matter? Oh, don't you dare leave this room early. Because before this message is over, you're going to understand why the pain had a purpose, why the delay wasn't denial, and why your obedience in the shadows is about to unlock a victory that the enemy thought he buried. So stay with me, because your faithfulness today, right now, is doing more in the spiritual realm than you could possibly imagine. And if you'll just keep walking, if you'll just stay rooted, if you'll just remain where God planted you, you're going to see a harvest tomorrow that makes every tear, every test, and every trial worth it now. Let's talk about this thing called faithfulness, not the flashy kind, not the kind that gets you trending online, not the kind that comes with a standing ovation. I'm talking about the kind of faithfulness that shows up when it's dark outside, when the doors are closed, and nobody knows what you're pressing through just to keep moving. That kind of faithfulness doesn't make headlines, but it makes heaven move. Because the truth is, God doesn't build your destiny on a hype. He builds it on history. And he builds that history with your obedience in the day-to-day grind of life. See, people want the spotlight, but they don't want the sacrifice. They want the platform, but they don't want the process. But God's not interested in how high you can jump when you're excited. He's interested in how straight you can walk when you're tired. Faithfulness isn't about feeling, it's about function. It's about doing what's right because it's right, even when it doesn't feel rewarding. It's showing up to the assignment God gave you, even when it looks like the assignment isn't doing anything for you. You remember, David, before he was king, he was a shepherd. Nobody saw him out there in the fields. His brothers didn't respect it. His daddy overlooked it. His community probably dismissed it. But God saw it. And that same David, because he was faithful in obscurity, was handpicked for the throne. Not because he was the loudest, not because he was the most impressive, but because he was consistent. He knew how to be faithful over the few, and that made him qualified to rule over the many. Some of us are praying for a platform, but we haven't proven faithful in private. Because here's the thing, faithfulness doesn't just show up in the big moments. It's revealed in the small ones, the way you talk when no one's around, the way you treat people who can't do anything for you, the way you honor God when it feels like you're not getting anything in return. That's where real faithfulness lives. It's in the unseen places. And just because it's unseen by people doesn't mean it's unnoticed by God. God has a habit of using the hidden seasons to prepare you for the harvest seasons. But if you don't learn to value your today, you'll sabotage your tomorrow. Some of us keep asking God for elevation, but he's still watching how you handle your current station. If you can't be faithful over what looks like little, why would he trust you with more? That little job, that little platform, that little responsibility, that's not small to God. It's a test, because if you skip the foundation, your future will collapse under its own weight. God is not just trying to bless you, he's trying to build you. And you can't microwave this. Faithfulness requires time. It requires endurance. You've got to show up when it's boring. You've got to stay when it gets hard. You've got to push through when you're misunderstood. That's the stuff of faithfulness. And let me tell you, when God sees that kind of loyalty, when he sees that kind of trust in him, he starts setting things in motion on your behalf that you don't even know about. While you're tending sheep, he's preparing a crown. While you're stacking chairs, he's building a throne. While you're praying in the midnight hour, he's aligning your next breakthrough. You don't see it yet, but heaven is not asleep to your efforts. Some of you are standing on the edge of something major, but God is still looking for daily consistency before he releases destiny. Because if your character can't carry it, your gifting will crush you. That's why he's watching how you serve now. That's why he's watching how you give now. That's why he's watching how you obey now. The reward doesn't come because of the spotlight. It comes because of the soil you've been sowing into faithfully, even when it looked like nothing was growing. So don't despise where you are. Don't discount what you're doing. Don't let the enemy lie to you and tell you it's not worth it. God sees it. He measures it. And when the time is right, when your season shifts, he'll open a door no man can shut, and you'll walk through it not wondering how, but knowing exactly why. Because you were faithful today, and now your victory is showing up tomorrow. Now let me deal with something we don't always like to talk about: delay. That word will test your faith, won't it? Because when you know God gave you a promise, when you've got a word from heaven, but the clock keeps ticking and nothing looks like what he said, that can mess with your spirit. You start wondering, did I miss it? Did God change his mind? Did I do something wrong? But hear me, just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean God isn't working. A delay is not a denial. It's a setup. You see, God operates on a different calendar than you do. He's not bound by your schedule or pressured by your deadlines. He's not pacing the floor in heaven because you're getting anxious. No, God's never in a rush, but he's always on time. And in that space between what he promised and when it shows up, he's not just preparing the blessing, he's preparing you. He's building something in you that the promise required. Because if he gave it too soon, it might crush you. If he gave it before you were ready, you might mismanage it. So the delay is divine. It's strategic. It's God's way of making sure that when you step into what he has for you, you don't just reach it, you keep it. Some of you are frustrated right now because you're faithful, but you're not seeing fruit. You're showing up, you're sowing, you're praying, you're walking in obedience, and it feels like the heavens are silent. But let me tell you something about seeds. When you plant a seed in the ground, the first thing it does is disappear. You can't see it anymore. It's buried, it's hidden, and it looks like nothing is happening. But in that soil, under that pressure, in that darkness, that's where life is forming. That seed is breaking open and stretching down before it ever breaks through. And that's what God is doing with your faithfulness. It may look like nothing is happening, but underground, in the unseen, God is growing something that's going to bear fruit in due season. Don't let the silence fool you. Yeah. Heaven is still speaking over your life. God hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't skipped over you. He's still watching how you wait. And he doesn't just reward people who work. He rewards those who wait well. That means not giving up when it's uncomfortable, not walking away when it's unclear, not cursing the process when it's painful. Because when you wait with faith, you tell God, I trust you more than I trust the timeline. You remember Abraham? God told him he'd be the father of many nations. But then years went by, decades passed, still no child, still no sign. But the Bible says he hoped against hope. That means when everything said it wasn't going to happen, when logic said give up, when people probably laughed in his face, he kept hoping. And in the right time, not Abraham's time, not Sarah's time, but God's time, the promise came forth. And that same God is still working today. What he started, he will finish. What he promised, he will perform. But you've got to stay faithful even in the delay. See, the enemy wants to use the delay to wear you down. He wants you to start doubting, to start detouring, to start deciding maybe you should take matters in to your own hands. But don't confuse God's pace with God's absence. He may be quiet, but he's not inactive. He may be still, but he's not absent. He's aligning situations, shifting hearts, breaking chains you didn't even know were wrapped around your future. He's moving behind the scenes so that when the stage is set, all you have to do is step into what's already been arranged for you. And when it happens, when the promise shows up, it's going to make sense why it took so long. You'll see how every and no led to the right yes. You'll understand why that door had to close so a better one could open. You'll thank God for the delay because the delay didn't destroy you. It developed you. It refined your character, increased your endurance, strengthened your spiritual muscles, and brought you closer to his heart. The delay taught you how to trust. So if you're in that in-between space today, don't give up. Don't let discouragement drown out your destiny. Don't let what you don't see cause you to walk away from what God said. The harvest doesn't come to the fastest, It comes to the faithful. And if you'll hold on just a little longer, what you've been believing for is already on the way. Because your faithfulness today is making room for your victory tomorrow. Now let me take you a little deeper. Because this isn't just about waiting on victory. This is about being ready to handle it when it comes. See, everybody wants to win, but not everybody wants to train. Everybody wants to stand on the mountaintop, but very few want to climb it. We pray for open doors. We declare promotion. We shout about breakthrough. But what we don't always understand is that the level of victory you're asking for requires a level of strength that has to be developed in advance. And God, being the wise, loving Father that He is, uses faithfulness as the training ground. Faithfulness is like a gym for your soul. It conditions your spiritual muscles. It develops your stamina. It stretches your character. Because victory, real, lasting, God-sized victory is heavy. It carries weight. And if your internal foundation isn't strong, that victory will crush you instead of bless you. So what does God do? He allows you to go through a season where you've got to walk when you'd rather run, serve when you'd rather shine, obey when you'd rather quit. Not because He's punishing you, but because He's preparing you. Let's talk about Joseph for a minute. That boy had dreams, big ones. God showed him visions of leadership, of influence, of elevation. But what happened next? He got thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and locked up in a prison. If you didn't know the story, you'd think the promise had died. But every pit, every step of that path was not a detour. It was a divine route. Because while Joseph was managing prison duties, God was developing management skills. While he was forgotten by man, God was forming his character. He was learning how to lead under pressure, how to stay righteous when falsely accused, how to trust when betrayed. And when Pharaoh finally called him, Joseph didn't have to get ready. He was ready. Because he'd been faithful in the dark, God could trust him in the light. That's the power of faithfulness. It builds in you what victory will demand from you. It forges patience in your heart, wisdom in your mind, humility in your spirit. Because when you get to your breakthrough, you won't just need vision, you'll need discipline. You won't just need courage, you'll need compassion. You won't just need influence, you'll need integrity. And those things don't grow in comfort, they grow in commitment. They grow when you're tired, but you stay. When you're disappointed, but you don't give up. When you're overlooked, but you still serve like you're being seen by heaven. God is not interested in giving you something you can't handle. He's not going to place a blessing in your life that your soul isn't strong enough to support. So when it feels like the victory is taking longer than it should, ask yourself, what is God building in me right now? Because He's not just working for you, He's working in you. That job that's stretching you, that relationship that's testing you, that season that's refining you. It's not in the way. It is the way. It's how He's strengthening your core so you don't collapse when you get to your call. So let's stop asking God to promote us and start asking Him to prepare us. Let's stop rushing to be seen and start rooting ourselves to be solid. Because a house can look beautiful on the outside, but if the foundation isn't deep, the storm will expose it, and storms will come. That's why faithfulness matters so much, because it's what keeps you steady when the winds of success try to swell your ego and the weight of responsibility tries to shake your peace. Faithfulness grounds you in something greater than applause. It anchors you to God. And can I tell you something else? When you've been trained by faithfulness, you don't fear the future. You're ready for it. You don't walk into the next level wondering if you belong. You walk in knowing you were built for this. You don't shrink back from opportunity. You step into it with boldness because you've been forged by fire, molded through obedience, and refined by the process. You're not just walking into victory. You're walking in victory that your character can carry, your spirit can sustain, and your faith can handle. So if it feels heavy right now, if the process seems long, if the training is stretching you, don't despise it, embrace it. Because the strength you're building today is the strength you'll need to stand tomorrow. And God never wastes a workout. Your faithfulness is making you strong enough to win the battle He's already planned for you to conquer. Now here's where we start to see the difference between just getting a result and walking in favor. Because when you're faithful to God, not just for a day, not just for a season, but as a lifestyle, He doesn't just reward you with outcomes. He covers you with something greater than a win. He releases favor. And favor will take you places that hustle can't get you. Favor will open doors that your resume doesn't qualify you for. Favor will shift rooms, move mountains, and break protocols. Not because of who you are, but because of who he is to you when you stay faithful to him. See, outcomes are good. You get what you asked for. You get the job. You get the promotion. You see the prayer answered. But favor is when you walk into rooms you didn't even know existed. Favor is when opportunities find you. Favor is when God makes others bless you even if they didn't want to. That's what faithfulness sets you up for. Because when God sees that your heart is loyal to him, not perfect, not flawless, but committed, he starts pouring out blessings that no man can take credit for. You can't manipulate favor. You can't manufacture it. You can't fake it. Favor is heaven's way of saying, I see you. I trust you. I'm covering you. And faithfulness is the access point. When you've been faithful in private, God rewards you in public. When you've kept your integrity when no one was watching, he elevates you where everyone can see. When you've stayed the course, honored his voice, followed his commands, even when it cost you, he releases something over your life that no enemy, no hater, no system can block. Look at Esther. She didn't fight her way to the throne. She didn't manipulate her way into favor with the king. She was faithful to her identity, faithful to her people, faithful to the call on her life. And when the time came, God gave her favor, not just beauty, not just position, but favor. So much so that the king extended his scepter before she even said a word. That's not personality. That's not strategy. That's divine favor resting on a faithful heart. And let's not forget Daniel, thrown into a lion's den for being faithful in prayer. He didn't waver, didn't bend, and compromise. And what happened? God shut the mouths of lions, not just to protect him, but to promote him. After the trial, Daniel had more influence than before. That's what happens when favor follows your faithfulness. You go through the fire and come out without even smelling like smoke. God makes sure your name rises higher, even when people tried to bury you. But let me make something real clear. Favor is not always comfortable. Favor doesn't mean you won't go through struggle. It doesn't mean the road will be easy. Sometimes, favor invites opposition. Because when God starts elevating you, when his hand is clearly on your life, it makes the enemy nervous. That's why you've got to be rooted. That's why you've got to be consistent. Because favor will put a target on your back, but faithfulness will make sure you're covered. You may be wondering, why has it been so hard lately? Why does it feel like everything's pushing against me? Maybe it's because God is shifting things. Maybe it's because favor is being prepared to rest on your life in a new way. And that resistance you feel, it's not meant to crush you. It's meant to strengthen you. It's a sign that your breakthrough is close. It's a signal that your faithfulness has not gone unnoticed. Because when favor comes, it doesn't just change your circumstances. It changes you. You start walking different, not in arrogance, but in authority. You start speaking different, not in pride, but in purpose. You start living different. Not because everything is perfect, but because you know who's walking with you. That's what favor does. And it doesn't come from chasing platforms. It doesn't come from trying to please people. It doesn't come from jumping through hoops for approval. It comes from walking with God daily. It comes from surrender. It comes from staying obedient even when you don't understand. So I'm telling you, keep serving, keep trusting, keep standing, because your reward is not just in the answer, in the covering, it's in the grace that follows you. It's in the supernatural peace that surrounds you. That's favor. And it only falls heavy on those who have proven they can carry it. If you stay faithful today, you won't just win tomorrow, you'll walk into tomorrow wrapped in the evidence that heaven is on your side.